Mr. Roosevelt, could you wait just a moment?
Why, yes, Mary, what is it?
Do you plan on being on the veranda with that china cup?
Why, yes, I thought I might. Why, any objection?
Well, yes. You see, I'm new here, and I know that that's a cup from the Mitten China set, the Marquise's finest, a gift from her parents. And I don't know if she'd like it out here on the veranda, and I don't want to get in trouble.
Well, bully for you, Mary. No, very good. I quite understand. But by Godfrey, I do like to drink my coffee out here on the veranda. Would you have any kind of ordinary cup that I could use?
Well, yes, right here.
Oh, bully for you, Mary. Yes,
Let me take your cup.
Fine. Yeah, very good.
Now enjoy your coffee. And I'll enjoy the rest of the day, not worry.
Ah, yes, indeed. By the way, Mary, if ever you're looking for employment, I have a place up north that might need a little extra help. The Marquis is fortunate to have you. By the way, will you tell the Marquis that I'll be waiting out here and visiting with the neighbors?
Okay.
Now, all right. Bully for you, Mary. Oh. Good day to you all. Now, some of you I know, but some of you I don't. Now, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Theodore Roosevelt. You may have seen me in Medora or on the trail. I've been in Dakota now, off and on, for about 3 years or so. Good day to you, sir. Are you, you're new in our valley now?
Mm-hmm.
You have your cattle started yet or not?
No.
If you have time, when we finish here, I'll be glad to let you look at the little stock. Perhaps we can do a little business.
Sounds like a good deal.
All right, very, very well. And anybody else, we're happy to get as many people started in the valley as we can. You know, sometimes when people see me here at the Chateau, they ask me, are you employed by the Marquis? No, indeed. I have my own cattle outfit, about 4,600 head now. No, I happen to be here today because the Marquis and I both had business in Miles City, and we arrived back at Medora today on the same train, and he was kind enough to invite me up. Quite a friendly gesture, I thought. And I'll tell you this, a meal at the Chateau is not to be refused. Nothing like the grub, if I may use that word, that Dow and Sewell served me up at the Elkhorn. Well, not to say there's anything wrong with baked beans and sourdough biscuits and flapjacks and boiled coffee. But by Godfrey, the kind of meal we had here today was something special. Let me tell you what we had. Well, we started with an aperitif, a little wine, and then there was soup, and then fish, and the main course was prairie chicken with asparagus and potatoes. For dessert, we had chocolate pudding with sprinkles of coconut, and of course a different wine for every meal, a different wine for every course. But I have another and better reason for enjoying coming up here to the Chateau. Just look at that. Just look at that. By Godfrey, what a spot the Marquis picked for his house. What a view. What a view. Nothing like it back east. Yes, I do have family back east, a little 3-year-old daughter to be exact, and a political career I'm not quite sure I want to abandon yet, so that is home. And as a result, I don't spend as much time out here as I'd like, but by Godfrey, I'll tell you this, I never tire of looking out over those buttes and beyond into the endless blue sky. And look up the river here toward my Chimney Butte Ranch. Oh, 5-10 miles up there, you can almost see it. You see the bluff there with the dry gray streak at the top. Then below that, the outcrop of scorio, and then the seam of lignite, and then below that, the many-colored clays. And then the welcome green of the trees down in the river bottom, along the little Missouri. The cottonwood and the box elder, the willow, the chokecherry, the wild plum, the cedar, the juniper, and all the rest of them. By Godfrey, what a glorious place to live and be. But you people all know that already. You know, I even get excited watching the progress the Marquis is making down here in Medora. And make no mistake about it, it's the Marquis' business interests that are building Medora. When I arrived here in 1883, or the same year the Marquis arrived, incidentally, he in the spring, I in the fall, there were only 4 buildings in Medora. In 1884, the next year, there were 84 buildings, and they were building in 85 and 86, and they're still building. Oh, I know there are some people, my friends the Langs among them, who would prefer to have things stay just as they are, not have the Marquis packing plant or the stage and freight line cutting new trails through the Badlands. And we all know what happens when a man fences in his land, which is what the Marquis did. No, we'll not soon forget the Lovesey killing. certainly the Marquis won't forget it in his 3 court trials. But by Godfrey, when people find a beautiful place in which to live better and live free, they're going to gather there. And they're going to try to change it into what each one of them thinks is better and is free. We're all doing that every day in and around Medora. And the Marquis, since he has the most money, is making the most changes. Well, we all know his packing plant, but you know the lovely little church he made for his wife, the St. Mary's Chapel down in Medora, and his hotels, the Metropolitan and the Demores, and you've probably all seen the charming house he built for his father-in-law, the Baron von Hoffmann, the New York banker, who is incidentally the Marquis' chief investor. Well, see, the Marquis' building naturally encourages other people to have confidence in the future of Medora. Well, my friend Joe Ferris built his general store right down in the middle of, well, you can just see the roof of the building right down there through those trees. You know, it's hard to believe that all of this has happened in just 3 or 4 years. When I arrived for hunting in the fall of '83, I didn't get off the train at Medora. There was no station. I had to get off at Little Missouri. It's just a little, maybe several hundred yards north of the railroad bridge there. And I spent that first night in the Paradise Park Hotel. Not the greatest accommodation I've ever had. Well, Little Mo, or Little Misery, as we sometimes call it, still there. But now it's mostly a place for carousing and getting into the kind of trouble that God Lovesey killed and put Duke Weniger and Frank O'Donnell in jail. No, I don't spend much time in Medora. When I get to Dakota, most of my time is spent taking care of one of my 2 ranches. The Chimney Butte, which I prefer to call the Maltese Cross, just up the river here, is managed by Joe Ferris' brother Sylvain and Bill Merrifield. That was my first in 1883. And then I bought the Elkhorn, 1884. That's my favorite. About 40 miles north of Medora on a beautiful bend in the river. Across the river, high bluffs to the north and east. And then my cabin, nestled in the cottonwoods down in the flat below. That's where I spend my time when I get to Dakota. I really love the place. I have to admit it is a little lavish compared to the other ranch houses in the area, but nothing compared to the ranch house the Marquis has here. And I do have a large veranda like this, too. I really love it. Love to sit there in my rocking chair and read or write or listen to the birds or the wind moving through the trees. Here's something that might interest you. This is my Maltese Cross brand. And this is another reason why I was happy to come to the Chateau today. You see, the Marquis has an excellent blacksmith shop down in Medora. And some time ago, he offered to have one of his blacksmiths make me another branding iron for the Maltese Cross, so this is the article. And I'll be happy to take it with me when I leave today.
Mr. Roosevelt!
Yes, Mary?
Can I speak to you for a minute?
Yes? Oh, thank you. Fine. And by the way, Mary, would you tell the Marquis that I'll try to be here when he and the Marquis return from their ride. By the way, Mary, would you? Well, first, the coffee was very good, china cup or not. Would you mind?
Sure.
Thank you very much. Well, this is what I've been waiting for. You see, the Marquis and I are both officers in our Little Missouri Stockmen's Association. And we both represented our organization at the annual meeting of the Montana Stock Growers Association, with which we are affiliated. You see, we stockmen still have a number of mutual problems that we have to get straightened out. But I'm happy to say that as a result of our joint actions, the problem of cattle rustling, which was a major problem 2 years ago, is now virtually eliminated. At that time, the only thing a cattleman could do was to form a vigilante committee, which of course we did. And unfortunately, I'm sorry to say, with fatal consequences for some. Granville Stewart of Montana was the leader of that movement. He is a man, I am happy to say, of much wisdom and vision and understanding, and a man who realizes how impossible it is to have a lynch mob attempt to solve the cattlemen's problems. He is now the guiding force of the Montana Stock Growers Association. We've learned much from him. As a matter of fact, it was in the effort to organize our Little Missouri Stockmen's Association that the Marquis and I first got together. You see, the Marquis was the first among us who made contact and gained membership in the Montana Stock Growers Association. The next year, he kindly recommended me for membership. Now, we finally got organized in December of 1884. There were 11 area stockmen at that organizing meeting. I functioned as chairman, and I was asked to draw up the Constitution and the bylaws of the Little Missouri Stockmen's Association. I was re-elected chairman in 1885, and I'm now serving as president. I am proud to say that one of the contributions I was able to make was possible because of my experience in politics and having served in the New York State Assembly. You see, I had run meetings before, so I was able to impose Robert's Rules of Order on every cattleman at that meeting, no matter how many head of cattle he ran. Let me see if I can remember what A.T. Packard wrote in the Badlands Cowboy at the time. The association should congratulate itself on re-electing Theodore Roosevelt as president of the association. Under his administration, everything moves quickly forward. There's none of the time-consuming, fruitless talk that so invariably characterizes a deliberative assembly without a strong presiding officer. So, this paper is a report of our meeting in Miles City. The Marquis wrote it up for me to take to Packard on my way through town as I leave. See, A.T. Packard is another man that deserves much credit for getting our Stockmen's Association started. Now, let me read a reprint of something he wrote early in 1884. He said, I hope now that some type of initiative will be taken concerning a problem that is the most important one to all our cattlemen in the valley. I am referring to the subject of cattle organization. Matters of vital interest are constantly raised that should be the concern of every stockman in the Badlands. Subjects continually come up that need to be settled by a majority vote of all the members in the valley. At present, there is no organization, so each man must make these decisions for himself. Yes, a fine man. I'll drop the paper off as I go through town on my way to the Elkhorn. You know, many people wonder about the Marquis and me. Are we friends or are we enemies? Well, I wouldn't exactly say we're friends, but we certainly aren't enemies. We've worked together very well on the Stockmen's Association. I have great respect for the man, as I think he has for me. Any man who has the imagination that the Marquis has, and the energy to get things done, I can't but respect and admire. Of course, I can't say I approve of all his projects and methods of operation, but by Godfrey, he gets things done. You know, one foolish thing people say about the Marquis and me is that we are two big toads in a little puddle, and we have to outdo each other. Well, now I ask you, do I start packing houses and build hotels and ice houses and organize stage and freight lines and ship refrigerated salmon from the west coast to the east coast, irrigate garden plots, make pottery from our local clay? No, absolutely not. Those are the Marquis' projects. I leave them all up to him. No, I am quite content to be a cattleman in Billings County, Dakota Territory. Now, I'm no threat to him, and he is no threat to me. He can continue to enjoy his business interests, and I'll continue to enjoy the things that I find interesting. This beautiful country, the ranching and the hunting and the riding, and I continue to breathe the invigorating sage-scented air and gaze at the sky and the prairies and the buttes, and by Godfrey, I swear, soak up its strength more and more of it every single day. By Godfrey, what a country! Well, I have spoken of some of the things that I respect and admire about the Marquis. I will say, however, there are some things about him that I don't particularly like, as I am sure there are things about me he doesn't particularly like. Well, first and foremost, our vast differences in politics. Good Lord, the man wants to be ruled by a king. The very idea sickens me. And in that connection, have you seen the Marquis' lead-filled bamboo walking stick? Huh? Have you ever seen him doing this with it? Do you know why he does this? To strengthen his arm. And why must his arm remain strong? For dueling. Dueling with a sword. Godfrey, I could have sworn this was 1886, not 1686. And another thing. You know, it seemed to me quite outrageous when I heard that in order to launch his town of Medora, he actually smashed a bottle of champagne across a tent pole of the first tent that he erected on the site. Ridiculous. And another thing I find little interest in and a source of disagreement is the occasional acts of bravado that the Marquis is capable of. You know the story of the Marquis and the grizzly bear hunt. Oh, well, Granville Stewart tells it, swears it to be the absolute truth. Well, it seems that on this bear hunt, the grizzlies, for some reason, were falling far too easily for excitement. So the Marquis, in order to solve that problem, simply threw his gun on the ground, took out his hunting knife, and engaged the grizzly bear in hand-to-hand combat. How long the engagement lasted, I have no idea. Obviously, the Marquis won by the grace of God, it seems to me. Another difference. Trivial, perhaps, but in my opinion, quite outrageous. The Marquis will spend $10 for a pair of silk underdrawers. Ridiculous. Well, these are one man's peculiarities, and although they may not recommend him as a regular companion, they certainly don't constitute, make him a mortal enemy or constitute the man's whole character. It does seem to me that far too many people in Medora simply look at the Marquis's eccentricities and manners and reject him as the crazy Frenchman. Well, no doubt he can be arrogant and condescending, ornery and bad-tempered, bossy and know-it-all, but by Godfrey, don't forget, it was the Marquis who induced the Northern Pacific Railroad to donate the land that makes the railroad park down there in Medora, and the Marquis was one of the Committee of Five to organize the first fire brigade in Medora, and after his first trouble the first year, the Marquis was one of the leaders in the effort to bring law and order to Billings County in Medora. And no question that many people found employment working in the Marquis's enterprises, the packing houses, hotels, the stage and freight lines with their warehouses and way stations. No, all of us, in many ways, owe much to the Marquis. It is difficult to know, however, how all his projects are going to end, because at the moment, he is having difficulties with a number of them. Well, for example, the stage line, he may find that he was just not practical enough. He organized the stage line and started it before he had the mail contract, which he needed if he were to succeed. When the contract failed to come through, the stage line was dead. Trouble with the freight line began when the gold mining process in the Black Hills changed, so they no longer needed the freight line. And other shippers soon discovered that it was shorter to go from Deadwood to the railroad by going to Dickinson or Belfield rather than Medora, so the bottom dropped out of that business. He closed those two businesses in May of last year, certainly with a loss of well into the thousands of dollars. Well, at the moment, the packing house is doing quite well. As of today, or yesterday actually, he sends out about 2 carloads of slaughtered beef a day. But there may be trouble there too. Because we have learned that the consumers back east find that beef from our range-fed steers is far too tough. They prefer the grain-fed beef. But the real question is whether or not the large packing houses in Chicago and St. Paul will permit the Marquis's brilliant idea of slaughtering the cattle where it's raised to come to any fruition or not. And it must be admitted that with all these difficulties, the Marquis's business practices leave much to be desired. But whether he succeeds or not, no question, the Marquis will be, maybe not absolutely remembered, but should be remembered as a man of a lot of imagination, a lot of ambition, a lot of courage, and certainly a lot of money. But the kind of a man a new country like this needs to get started. By Godfrey, I've been going on here like a runaway horse. It's getting late, and if I want to get to the Elkhorn before tomorrow, I better hasten forward quickly there. Have you ever heard that expression on the range? No? I will wager that you haven't. Well, now, I must admit with some degree of embarrassment that my first year here, I actually gave that order to a cowboy at a roundup. Needless to say, he didn't know what I meant. And he joined the rest who nearly laughed me out of the county. So I think I better just say, I better get a move on and get ready for some danged hard riding. So, well, you see, even a four-eyed Eastern dude can learn if you just give him a little time. Well, good day. Good day to you all.